All right, let's get right into it. For decades, one of the simplest, most common foods out there has been at the center of this huge, furious debate. It's a breakfast staple, right? A baker's best friend. And let's be honest, a source of total and complete confusion for a lot of us.
I mean, seriously, right? It feels like every single year the advice just does a complete 180. One minute we're told it's the perfect food. The next, it's a ticking time bomb just waiting to go off in your chest. So, in this explainer, we are going to crack this thing wide open and see what the real science has to say.
And look, this right here is the heart of the problem. On one side, you've got experts calling it the absolute gold standard of protein. But on the other, you've got these official sounding committees putting out these super serious health warnings. So, how can both of those things be true? It doesn't make sense. Let's start by looking at the case against the egg. So, to really get why eggs got such a bad reputation, we've got to go back and look at the headlines and the studies that basically created this whole cloud of fear and confusion that's been hanging around for years. And let me tell you, these headlines they're genuinely scary. We're talking about studies that are linking eggs to some of the biggest health fears out there. Heart disease, cancer, you name it. There was this one study in 2021 that claimed adding just half an egg a day, half an egg, was linked to a higher risk of dying. So yeah, it's really no wonder people are worried. Okay, so what is it in the egg that's supposed to be so bad for us? Well, for decades, the two main villains in this story have been saturated fat and, of course, the big one, cholesterol. Pretty much all the warnings we've ever heard about eggs come down to these two things. But is the evidence against them really as solid as we've been led to believe? Okay, this is where it starts to get really interesting. Because when you dig just a little bit deeper, when you look at how they actually reach these scary conclusions, well, the whole case against eggs starts to fall apart. So it turns out the vast majority of these negative studies are what we call observational studies, and a huge chunk of those rely on something called a food frequency questionnaire. Now, what that means is they basically just ask people to remember everything they ate over the last few months, or sometimes even the last year. And right here, this is the absolute key difference. An observational study can only show a link, a correlation. It can say, hey, these two things seem to happen together, but it can't, and I mean cannot, prove that one thing caused the other. To do that, you need the scientific gold standard, which is a randomized controlled trial, or RCT. And what do you know? The scary headlines about eggs, they almost never come from these much stronger, more reliable trials. I mean, think about it. These questionnaire studies are just famously unreliable. First off, can you remember what you had for lunch last Tuesday, let alone what you ate over the past year? I know I can't. And second, you just can't isolate one single food. Who eats just a plain egg? Are they eating it with a pile of bacon, some processed sausage, or maybe a donut on the side? These studies are terrible at separating the egg from all the other lifestyle stuff that's actually causing the harm. And hey, if the shaky science isn't enough to make you suspicious, just follow the money. It turns out some of these studies have major conflicts of interest. We're talking about researchers publishing this anti-egg data who are also getting paid by the big drug companies. The ones that sell cholesterol-lowering medication. Kind of makes you wonder about the bias, doesn't it? All right, so we've seen how shaky the foundation is for the case against eggs. So now let's totally flip the script. Let's look at what the stronger science says is actually packed inside that shell. First up, protein. A single large egg has about 7 grams of the highest quality, most usable protein you can possibly eat. In fact, it's second only to breast milk. We're talking all the essential amino acids your body absolutely needs to build and repair itself. But it's so much more than just protein. An egg is literally like nature's multivitamin. It is packed with vitamin A, the good stuff, retinol, which is crucial for your eyes and immune system. It's got vitamin D, E, K2, and pretty much every single B vitamin you can think of. It is an unbelievably nutrient-dense food. And we're not even done. Beyond the vitamins, that yolk, the part we were told to throw away, has some serious power players. There's choline, which is vital for your brain and your liver. You've got lutein and zeaxanthin, these powerful antioxidants that protect your eyes. And get this, there's a compound called sphingomyelin that actually helps prevent plaque from building up in your arteries. Yeah, the exact opposite of what we've been told for decades. Okay, let's just bust a huge myth right now. For years, we've all heard it. Ditch the yolk, just eat the egg whites for protein. Well,
That's just wrong. The science is clear. Gram for gram, the yolk has way more protein than the white. So when you throw out that yolk, you're not just throwing away almost all those incredible nutrients we just talked about, you're also throwing out the most protein-packed part of the egg. All right, so we've looked at the really weak evidence against eggs and the really strong evidence for them. So let's bring it all home and figure out what this all means for you and for your next breakfast.
So, after all of this, after decades of going back and forth, what's the final verdict? What's the bottom line? Are eggs good for you, or are they not?
Well, based on the best, highest quality science we have today, the answer is actually crystal clear. The fear around eggs? It was built on a foundation of flawed, weak, and, yeah, often biased research. For most healthy people, eggs are an incredibly nutritious food.
But I know what you're thinking. What about the cholesterol? Well, it turns out that for about 70% of people, eating cholesterol in food has pretty much no effect on the cholesterol levels in their blood. None. And for the other 30%, the hyperresponders, they see a mild increase in both the bad LDL and the good HDL.
So, how many can you eat? Well, study after study has shown that for healthy people, eating up to 3 whole eggs a day is perfectly fine. In fact, it's been shown to have no negative effects and can even improve your cholesterol by boosting that good HDL.
And maybe that's the real lesson here from this whole egg debate. This was never just about eggs. It's a masterclass in learning to look past the scary headlines, to ask, where is this information coming from, and to really understand the huge difference between a flimsy correlation and actual scientific proof. So the next time you see one of those scary food headlines, maybe take it with a healthy dose of skepticism and, yeah, a perfectly cooked egg.